Guys, welcome back to the HawksZone Rundown, our bi-weekly segment, A Pulse of the Hawks with Mookie Alexander from Field Goals. We got a lot to get into tonight. It's a little different tonight. We're going to look at the 2022 draft class. You look at this class, when you look back on it, it was a lot of good players came to that draft. John Schneider really hit on that one. But the only thing is, a lot of these guys are coming up for extensions, and now you got decisions to make. Do you pay them? What do you do? Do you extend them? So we're going to get into a lot of that with Mookie and break that all down for you guys too. And then we're going to talk about some of the comments that John Schneider just recently made. And then we're going to cap it off with a mock draft. It's mock draft season time, and we are weeks away from the NFL draft. So it is just getting more exciting to look at these prospects and, see who is a good fit for the Seahawks. And guys, flood your comments and questions in. We're going to get to Q&As throughout. So flood them in, interact. That's what we're all about here. And so on the other side, Mookie Alexander. Before we get to that, guys, if you haven't done it yet, go down, sub to the channel, hit the subscribe button, share the videos, like the videos. That all helps out the channel. So on the other side, Mookie Alexander from Field Goals.
So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Yeah, let's go. It's go time, baby.
Here he comes. Gino steps up, takes that shot to the end zone. It is Metcalf, 20.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You about to go get it. You just like to do it.
That's what it is.
Off speed.
Nobody in the world can do it.
Are you kidding me? Trying to do that. Pass is caught back in. Jackson Smith is jigged on the surface. Music moves in. Throws with Baldwin. Oh my goodness, he caught it. By the way,
This is the HawksZone Rundown with your hosts, Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, welcome back to the Hawks Zone. Mookie Alexander joins us for the bi-weekly segment, Pulse of the Hawks. Mookie, you know what? It's been a whirlwind of an offseason. Things have slowed down a little bit, but we're getting close to the NFL draft. And, so things are starting to get a little exciting again. But you know what? Kind of cool today because we're going to look at that 2022 class and break it all down as far as, coming up on extension time possibly.
Oh, you mean we're not here to talk about the exciting Steven Sims and River Craycraft signings?
We can get to those.
Four veteran salary benefit signings. Let's all get worked up over it. Let's have strong takes about Eric Saubert and who's the other dude they signed? Shamar Jean-Charles. So yeah, we don't need that. We got to focus.
You can't forget about D'Anthony Bell, Mookie. My gosh, you can't forget about that special teams.
Our Rayshon Jenkins replacement. Hey, special teams is important, and the fact that they signed a returner and that D'Anthony Bell is a good special teamer, that tells you everything you need to know about them paying attention to special teams after last year's shit show.
Yeah, well, Jalen Waddle seemed pretty upset about the Craycraft thing, so we might have something going with that one. But you know what? Let's ignore all that and get into it, guys. Flood your comments and questions. Get them in here for Mookie, for the guys here. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this one tonight. But the 2022 class. Talking about the NFL draft, it was you look back and man, it was one we criticized John, but you look at that class and he really hit on a lot of guys. You look at that roster across the board, key members all across the board. You got your bookends there with Abe and Charles Cross. You have your start and run back for the last few seasons in Ken Walker. We've went back and forth of does Riq fit in this system, but you got Riq Woolen who. Still you look at that ceiling with this guy and say, hey, it's as high as he wants it to be. So, there's just a lot of guys here, but the thing is decisions have to be made, right? So let's get into this right now. Let's talk about this guy. We basically broke down kind of what these guys are all about and their grades and stuff like that and possibilities of where we think that, the Seahawks, are they going to extend them? Are they not going to extend them? So this is kind of our extend or not to extend segment. So why don't we kick it off? Bryce, why don't we start at the top of the list here? Charles Cross, it's been a solid guy for us. People expect huge, big things because he's a top 10 pick. But our O-line's been trouble, but he's that guy that's just been that mainstay there at that tackle position. Mookie, what are your thoughts on Cross, and what are your thoughts of the extension? He's got that 5th-year option. What are your thoughts with Cross and where he fits in with this team future-wise?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because I feel like they're likely to extend Cross, but at the same time, I'm not as confident they'll give him the 5th-year option. In other words, maybe they can just bypass that and extend it now. But incidentally, you might have noticed we left off a couple of guys. Well, like Bo Melton's not on the team anymore, and Tyreek Smith is on the practice squad. Or actually, I don't even think he got signed to a future contract. So that leaves with Riq Young. And all respect to Riq, we do not need to spend a whole lot of time debating whether or not Riq Young is going to get extended. But Charles Cross, I feel like the Seahawks are obligated to extend him. I just think about Seattle's history with their offensive line. They have extended one player under John Schneider, one offensive lineman that John Schneider has drafted has gotten a second contract, meaning a proper extension, not Phil Haynes getting cut and then re-signed. And that's Justin Britt. And Britt's got his extension after being a disaster tackle and a disaster guard, and they found him at least capable at center. Whereas Charles Cross, you would think his best years are still to come. And I think that Cross had a very good start to last season. Then he dipped a bit, and he's still, to me, an above-average player. And we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. So, yeah, Charles Cross is not the top 3 left tackle right now. Maybe he never will be. But I'd rather have some level of continuity and have positive offensive line play than having to constantly replace through the draft or through free agency or through the trade market. So I think that Cross will get extended. Doesn't mean he's going to be the highest paid tackle in the league or anything. In fact, truthfully speaking, I don't think that any of the Seahawks that we're going to discuss will be in the running for like highest paid X position in the league. And I think it's to their advantage. So I believe that Cross gets extended. And we see it on the graphic, like a $90 million deal, maybe a $100 million deal, because Darrisaw's is like $104 million. I think that can work out. Remember, it may sound expensive now, but it's not going to sound as expensive 2 years later when tackles are getting paid even more than that and the cap keeps rising.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's where this kind of potential extension that I worked up here basically came off using, Darren Saw's number and going off of what the guarantees could look like. Again, Charles Cross, like you said, Mookie, he's been good. He hasn't been great. And, they do have the 5th-year option, and that's why, like, the likelihood, like I put it's an 85, unless he completely falls on his face this year. Charles Cross is getting extended, and I agree with you. They may bypass that 5th year and extend him before the regular season starts or partway through like they've done in the past with other players. Charles Cross is going to get an extension here. And I think the money that's there, the 80, 90 million with about 50 or 60 of it guaranteed, 2 years from now, we're going to look at that and go, this is a great deal for a left tackle that's an above average starter in the NFL.
Yeah. I got him at I know you got him at 85%. I got him at 99%. Or you got him at 85%. I got him at 99%. I just think it's just, I mean, like Mookie, you pointed, they're almost obligated to do it. I think it's just one of those things that if you let him go, then what do you do? It's different if this guy had a string of injury problems, or he's been a solid guy for us. I think you look at that top 10. Well, he should be here because he was picked on the top 10. I mean, yeah, but he's been really, really solid for us. I think you just have to, and the money, yeah. I mean, those are good comps. So I think it's, man, I think I could see a deal done before the season.
Yeah, and this is one where I'd rather, sooner rather than later, because you notice that a team like the Buffalo Bills or the Philadelphia Eagles, they're really good. Their front offices are really good at getting their guys taken care of soon. Real quick before other teams sign their guys, and then suddenly price of the bricks going up, basically. So that's kind of been the opposite of what Seattle's done, and God knows how many times we have seen holdouts or near holdouts or 11th hour deals done because they're waiting and waiting and waiting, and they either don't resign or meaning trade or let walk in free agency. But with Cross, I feel like you've got to nail that down now, and it's a good thing you brought up the health. Because, he missed a few games in 2023, but I don't think he missed any games in 2022. He might have missed a few snaps getting dinged up, and he was fine in 2024. Right. So just having that availability, in stark contrast to Abe Lucas, I think is one of his best attributes right now, is that Seattle has a consistently healthy left tackle. which, I mean, Big Waltz is the gold standard, but like Russell Okung, for as good as he was, he could never consistently stay healthy in Seattle. And Dwayne Brown had his injury problems, kind of closer to the end of toward the end of his career. But Cross is also still pretty young, right? He's like 24 years old or thereabouts, 25. So yeah, I think that Cross should be a no-brainer. I think I go north of 90% that he gets extended.
Yeah. No, agreed. Let's take a look at the next guy. What was Abe Lucas talking about the other? Oh, okay, we'll get to the other side of the ball. Well,
Yeah, let's go to Boye Mafe.
Let's get to the other side of the ball. Boye Mafe, one of those dudes for me, Mookie. Like you look at it, the graphic speaks for itself. 75%. I mean, I like that number. Yeah, he's one of those guys, right? He's good. So are you gonna let a guy like that walk? I think when you look at the edge play and you look at Derek Hall on the other side and you say, okay, Derek kind of emerged, but where is he at? I think Boye's really solidified himself. So I like that 75, man. For me, like I think that 4-year deal aligning with where we're at here, I think that to me would fit. I mean, yeah, you get the other side of the ball, you got Cross and then Mafe on the other side. Those are the two guys. I know we're going to get down to some other guys, but Boye for me was another guy where it's, I feel like an extension will happen, and possibly again, it could be before the season starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, and in Mafe's case of being a second-round pick, and then for everybody else we're going to talk about,
right?
No fifth-year option exists because they're not first-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
So with Mafe, and I know this graphic has got the Greg Russo deal. So speaking of the Buffalo Bills, Russo signed for 4 years, $80 million, and he had a real. He's always been a good player for Buffalo, but he had a real breakout season this past year. Whereas Mafe had a significant year 2 leap, and then stayed pretty solid in year 3. He kind of dipped a bit with his sack productivity toward the end of the season, but the fact of the matter is he has emerged as a two-way outside linebacker. So not only is he a quality pass rusher, but he's also a much improved run defender from what he was in his first season. So again, just as I said earlier, I don't think any of these contract extensions or hypothetical contract extensions would involve top 2, top 3 money. Like, no, Boye Mafe is not going to be getting Max Crosby, Myles Garrett north of $30 million. Like, that's not happening. And that's totally fine. But in that other tier where it is Josh Sweat or Jonathan Gennard or Greg Russo, where Mafe is like 20 to say 25 million a year. So that's kind of like below TJ Watt. I think that's perfectly reasonable. And yeah, we've been talking about Seattle needing to have another edge rusher. Mafe is not part of that equation. Like, Mafe is, to me, safe. It's about everybody else on that depth chart for injuries or performance or whatever. That makes, to me, edge rusher still a need for Seattle long term. But for Mafe, he has been a solid player. And again, somebody who doesn't get hurt or hasn't been hurt a lot in his early career.
Yeah, no, and that was kind of the thing when doing this graphic. It was very much like, okay, what did Josh Sweat get? What did Greg Russo get from his Buffalo deal? Because Mafe is kind of in that bracket. And part of it, too, is Mafe is a second-round player where Russo was a first-round draft pick. So, when I was looking at the numbers and rough kind of using over the cap and stuff, like the way it came out is I said, you're going to put him above Sweat's number of that 3-year, $42 million deal he got because of his youth. His potential is still there. Like, I don't think we've still seen the best of Boye Mafe yet. But I think he's still slightly below Russo. So that's where, like, I agree, Mookie. Like, if you look at it and he got a 4-year, $60 to $70 million extension, that's a reasonable number to me for, again, a right now good but not yet great pass rusher, but a great two-way player that can play against the run, can give you some upside in the pass rush, and you're not necessarily breaking the bank for a guy that could, next year, we could be talking about Boye Mafe having a 12-sack season if he puts it all together for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we're all in agreement with that. And I mean, I think those are two guys that we think that let's get these deals done sooner than later. That's what you got to do. But let's move on to another guy that's in the backfield, Kenneth Walker. That a lot of debate about him because we've had talks about, is this guy going to be moving forward. He has had injury history, not like an injury prone guy, but he's had injuries, and he is in that one position where, there's been a little more, with the Saquon Barkleys and really coming to life and stuff like that. But, you're talking about a guy that, do you want to extend? Do you want to give him that money when right now you look at it and you got two other running backs in that room and a loaded running back class coming out in this year's NFL draft? This is the interesting one for me, Mookie and Bryce. I think a lot of times we've been talking about it, like John possibly could pick up a back later on in the draft, and especially if he likes one, and then does that make Ken expendable? Man, it's a tough one for me, man. You got it 50-50, Bryce. I know you've come up with some of these stats, and that's a pretty good number. It's a coin flip for me too. Like I don't know. Like, we talk about this system with Kubiak can really suit Ken Walker, but again, does that mean you pay this guy? Can you get another guy that's suitable enough where you can get him on a cheap? So this is a 50-50 one for me. Man, if I had to really think about this one though, I'm going to lean towards that they don't extend him, unless, because I feel like there's other teams out there that be willing to give this guy a little more money.
Yeah, I'm actually leaning toward that he doesn't get extended. And when we think about his injury history, I'll stop short of calling him injury prone, but he certainly picks up a lot of short-term injuries. So he missed 2 games in the regular season, but don't forget, he also got hurt in preseason. And he missed 2 games with the oblique thing in 2023. And then he had another oblique thing at the start of 2024. Then he had his ankle rolled up at the end of the season. So he ended up playing only 11 games. And then last season, I know that the offensive line was a mess and that they generally didn't like to run the ball that much. But I think what concerned me about Walker is he really did not look like an explosive back the way that we saw in the first couple of seasons. His longest carry all season was 28 yards. Geno had a longer rush than that, and so did Zach Charbonnet. And his longest receiving play of the season was 21 yards. So all of those explosive plays that we've come to expect from Ken Walker weren't really there. And running back is such a replaceable position that if Walker has more injury problems or is diminished as a result of his injuries, and I'm worried about the oblique thing because that he's had this multiple times. I'm wondering if there's just something to it with Walker's running style or whatnot. But it is a deep running back class this year. Charbonnet has shown a significant improvement in his game. Walker is the better athlete. I mean, he has at his best game-breaking speed. Zone blocking scheme should work pretty well for him, but again, it's the running back position, and I'm not saying please don't never pay running backs or anything. I've stayed off of that for a bit, but I don't think Walker is an absolute must extend compared to Mafe and Cross. I can see Seattle moving on from Walker if need be, and also like other than Marshawn Lynch, their history of extending running backs is not deep, so they're willing to move on from backs if they're not like at a Pro Bowl or All Pro level caliber level of play.
Yeah, and that truly goes back even to Sean Alexander, Mookie. If you really think about it, signed his big deal after the MVP season, and within 2 years they'd moved off of him because of injuries and so on. So I agree. That's the reason I put the 50-50. I really do think it depends on Walker's season and what Walker comes asking for. You're asking for a guy that, Barkley's Saquon's now reset that market a little bit this offseason with his 2-year deal. But I don't think Ken's a guarantee. This running back group, I'm truly going to be, I would be shocked if Seattle doesn't take a running back. And I mean like a running back in, say, potentially 5th to 6th round, and they're still going to get a good quality player that fits this scheme for what they want to do. I love Walker. I love what he brings. But the injuries are what are concerning to me, is that you're missing multiple games. It's not like, hey, Ken Walker missed 2 games in his rookie year and then he just missed 2 games this year. So there was a full season in between or 2 seasons in between. We're talking about a guy that has missed multiple games in multiple seasons, struggles to stay healthy, and in a run-heavy system, that's going to make it really interesting. And if they're worried about it, then okay, you're splitting the shares of the backfield with Charbonnet and Kenny Mack. Now your value isn't even there again as being the explosive, hitter, because you're not going to get all the carries in the game that you may have before if you had shown durability. So no, I agree. And that's why I put it as a 50-50. Like, we're going to wait and see, I think, with Ken. I think that's what Seattle will do. They'll wait and see how the season goes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that they might just play it out. And the other thing is, too, when you look at it, Mookie, you brought up the history of extending backs. The other thing is, too, like you said, Bryce, they might pick one up late in the draft, 5th, 6th round. Look at who they've got in the 7th round. Chris Carson. I think they could look at it and say, look, we can pick up a back, and we could pick up a back that's really, really good late. Kenny Mack, still unknown. We've seen what I saw with him last season. Like, I was impressed, and he was a 7th rounder. So you can get these guys late. And like you said, Mookie, it's not prone, but it sees all these little injuries. So when you look at it, if someone pulls up the stat sheet, it's like, well, Walker didn't miss that many games. It's like, but it's all these little injuries that add up. Oblique, it's like, okay, now the next one, maybe he's out a little longer, or it takes him a little longer to recover, all this kind of stuff. So that's totally concerning. And the biggest thing is the position he plays. Mookie, you talk about Cross and Mafe. Where do they play? They're in the trenches. I mean, it's won and lost in the trenches. So I think, and like you said, what we've seen from Charbonnet, I like his game. I like Kenny Mack's game. And like you said, Ken Walker, yeah, man, didn't show that rookie season type of explosiveness, right? So, it's one of those things. Just real quick, I know we're moving on to the next guy, but we're talking about, like, I get it. There's a lot of fans of Walker, and you look at it, but you can't blame Walker's struggles on Ryan Grubb was just incompetent. Yeah, but I think for me, it's what you do see on the field, that, say, lack of explosiveness, or when he gets hit, the first hit, he's going down. All that kind of stuff, right? You have to see, you see what is happening on the field. Yes, we all know Ryan Grubb was incompetent, but, it's all that combination thing for me. So I agree. I would lean towards not extending him, and I would honestly be okay with that move.
Yeah, and I just want to note, I'm glad you brought up Chris Carson, because I forgot about him. How can I forget Chris Carson? They extended him, but it was a 2-year, $14 million contract, and he had an injury history on him that was worse than Walker's, because he broke his freaking ankle in year 1. So, and he missed time in every game subsequent to that. I think he even had an IR stint in 2020. So they extended him, and unfortunately, he got injured quite seriously enough for him to get forced into retirement. And yeah, Walker getting injured is not his fault. Well, you could say that about a lot of injury-prone players. They don't get out there and get injured on purpose.
Right.
But some guys are just more injury-prone than others, and that might be the case with Walker. So as explosive as Walker is, and I also think that we should no, he's fumbled one time in his career. Like, he is really good with ball security. He fumbled against the Jets, and there are a couple of bad exchanges where I think either Walker got attributed the fumble, or it was a bad exchange between Geno and Walker, and Geno got charged with the fumble, even though it might have been Walker's fault. But in terms of Walker carrying the ball, one real fumble in 3 seasons is exceptional. Like, that was a thing that Chris Carson had a problem with. Yep. Like, I love Chris, but he fumbled quite a bit.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of qualities to Chris Carson's game. There were a lot of qualities to Chris Carson's game, but there are also many different qualities to Kenneth Walker's game. And he has that speed element that is lacking throughout the rest of the Seahawks offense. So I would love to see him break out in this new offense under this new coaching staff behind this offensive line. So if he can show out, he can break through. Doesn't mean that Kenneth Walker is going to go sign like a 3-year, $40 million contract. And in some ways, his injury history might be grounds for a little discount. So yeah, he, unlike Mafe and Cross, where I assume they're going to get deals done before the season's over, Walker is very much in that wait and see territory where, if it's not working out or he gets injured again, they'll move on. This draft class is deep, as you said. And while I like Kenny McIntosh, and Charbonnet has been significantly better than he was in his rookie year, if they like a running back in the 4th or 5th rounds, they're not going to like, oh my God, we absolutely have to keep Kenny McIntosh. We absolutely have to keep George Olani. If there's a dude who's clearly better than both of them, that dude is going to get the spot.
The one thing I'll just add to this, and this is something that's as old as time, your availability is what you're worth. And with Kenny and Ken Walker, he hasn't had as great availability as he should for that position. And that's the biggest thing, right? No matter what you do, and we get it's not his fault he's getting hurt, but if you're not available to be on the field and be an impactful player, they're not going to pay you the money. They're going to go find somebody that is. And that's just the reality of that situation. So, again, this season's going to be huge for Kenny Walker.
When is it a player's fault when they get hurt?
I'd love to know too. Trust me,
that one to me is just like it's like, okay, you're blaming the offensive line. Like, the thing is, it's a brutal physical position no matter what line you're playing behind. Like, you're getting hit every single time. So it's an injury riddled position. But some guys can stay healthier, and if you're getting hurt like that too, it's a short career. You know, you brought up Chris. He had the neck thing, unfortunately, but yeah, and look at this, for as strong and big as he was, right? Like, it's just, you get hurt. So, you know, the Seahawks know that. So we'll see. But yeah, I think they play it out, and you're definitely not going to see an extension before the season if that's what anyone's expecting. So.
All right, let's move on to the next player on our list here, which is a guy that's been a bit of a polarizing player since he's been here in Seattle, Riq Woolen. And corners are getting paid, gentlemen. They are getting paid lots of money at this rate. Do we think that Riq Woolen is going to be a Seahawk after the season? Do you think we extend him before the season? I've been in the boat that I believe Riq Woolen's going to be a play it out this year and see what happens and see how he performs. Last year, obviously, he had the, quarter or two suspension because he broke team rules. Mike McDonald called him out for consistency issues. It's one of those things where I look like it feels more to me that they're trying to fit Riq Woolen into the defense than Riq Woolen actually fits in this defense. And I get he's got all these physical attributes and he's a freak when it comes to being an athlete. But I look at plays last year in games where he's getting burnt deep, and it looks like he's lost out there in what his responsibilities were and just the inconsistency of the play. And then you look at the, guys like Stingley Jr. and Lenore getting 3-year, $90 million deals. So that's roughly a $30 million, annual value for it. Do we truly believe Riq Woolen is worth that amount of money when you're going to have to pay Devin Witherspoon coming up here and some of these other pieces on your team?
So this is going to be fun, because Riq, he's somebody who's been available generally. I think he's missed like 3 games total.
Yeah.
So he's been healthy. It's just that the fact that he's been benched even temporarily by 2 coaches now in 2 seasons, hopefully something clicks for year 4, because it's not for lack of talent. He's got a lot of physical tools. He's tall, he's rangy, he's fast for his size. He's got very, very good ball skills, but sometimes he has these lapses in concentration. And that's where fans can get frustrated. Not just lapses in concentration, it's the run defense and the subpar tackling. Now, there have been plenty of corners for whom tackling is not their strong suit. But with Woolen, and especially in McDonald's defense, I think, much like with Pete, your corners better tackle damn well. And Witherspoon, even though sometimes he's willing to get trucked because he is not the biggest corner in the world, damn it, he tries. He absolutely tries. If you put Witherspoon's mindset in Woolen's body, you'd have the best corner in the league. Now, as far as the cornerback market, there is no shot that Riq Woolen is getting a Derek Stingley. I think that is kind of like too high for most other teams to even think about that level of money. And it's not just that it was 3 years, $90 million. It's like 80-something million, $89 million guaranteed. So then you also had J.C. Horn, who is also a good corner and one of the only good defensive players on the Panthers. And he just got, I think it was 3 years or 4 years and $100 million, something like that. So those two are at the top of the market. But Stingley's contract is $30 million a year, and J.C. Horn is next after that, $25 million a year. Then you got Pat Surtain II, who might be the top corner in the league, and he's certainly among the best, and there's no debating that. I think he just had his deal, and he is at $24 million a year. So realistically speaking, when you look at the top corners in the league, Stingley, Horn, Ramsey's on the downside of his career. So I'm going to focus on the younger guys. Surtain is 25, AJ Terrell's 27, Denzel Ward is 28, Trayvon Diggs is 27. So they're all north of 19 million. So is Woolen worth more than 19 million a year? Thinking about percentage of the cap, the assumption the cap is going to keep rising. and the fact that the cap hit is not going to be spread evenly, I think he can be. If he plays to his best abilities in McDonald's defense, I absolutely think he's going to get extended. But yeah, he is a polarizing figure. If some of the same lapses continue where he's cheating in the backfield or he's getting fooled on, so he's responsible for coverage bust or whatever, then I can see Seattle moving on. Thing is, Seattle's had such a hard time at corner post Legion of Boom. They didn't keep Shaq Griffin, and I think they were justified in not doing that. They didn't keep DJ Reed either. They obviously didn't bother to keep Trey Brown, and they preferred Josh Jobe to him. So after the Legion of Boom era, and even when they had the Legion of Boom, they didn't keep Maxwell, and they let Browner walk too. So this is a position where, whether Carroll is here or not, they've been comfortable moving on from guys at this position and then replacing. So if you ask me who's a bigger priority to extend, Witherspoon or Woolen, it's Witherspoon unquestionably, but Witherspoon's not extension eligible right now. So with Riq, I think it's kind of like 50-50 as to whether he gets extended or not.
Yeah, I think to your point with the does it continue on? I mean, I don't see how it's going to change, to be honest with you. I think from the year before when Mike came in and we were like, there was a handful of guys who were like, okay, let's see what happens when Mike gets his hands on these guys, and what did we see? We saw kind of the same things in lapses in judgment, getting benched, polarizing. Yeah, he's got the physical freakish tools, but I think, once we saw that rookie season and him playing like he did, and it was kind of like, hey, he doesn't even know what he's doing out there, but he's so freakish, so he'll get it. He hasn't seemed to get it. That's the only thing. And so now you're talking about an extension for this guy. And to your point about they're okay moving on from certain dudes at that position, I could see them completely moving on. I don't feel like this is a Mike Macdonald guy. And that's the other big thing. I think if Pete was here, there might be and I'm not saying that the percentage would be high, but I would put the percentage higher than Mike Macdonald being in this building. I just feel like he's not a Mike Macdonald dude. Devin Witherspoon is completely a Mike Macdonald dude. Like you said, I don't care about the size of that dude. He be as small as he wants. He plays bigger than most of the dudes in the league. So I think that I think that plays a huge role. So if you see any more of that, I think it's why are we gonna invest in you? I mean, that's a lot of money, right? To invest in a guy that, just because he's got some physical tools. I mean, I think there's a reason he might have been a 5th round pick because of those things. So we'll see. I think I'm going to lean towards they will absolutely not extend the guy. I don't think so at all. So I'm going to be more on the surprised if they do.
It's something we'll talk about Coby in a second, but yeah, the cornerback spot right now, I think if we were to do this all over again in a month, I think that our opinion would be shifted by how early they draft a cornerback this year. Because Witherspoon, we're not worried about. But right. This Josh Jobe story is cool, but it could unravel in a second. Because Trey Brown looks really, really good in 2023 and then lost his job in 2024 to Josh Jobe. So if Jobe regresses or is just like nothing special, I can see Seattle looking at the cornerback position going, yeah, let's go get somebody in the second or third round and somebody who would be in the McDonald mold, as it were, to play alongside Witherspoon and Woolen and Jobe, and then, create more competition. Because, I mean, they tried last year. They tried with Pritchett and James. James got cut in preseason, and it seems like there might have been more at play there than just him not performing on the field. And then Pritchett, in his limited playing time, could not have looked he couldn't have looked less ready if you tried. So maybe that improves with the proper with another offseason, but that's beside the point. They let Artie Burns walk, they let Trey Brown walk. So they're redoing at least the bottom end of the depth. How they view the top of the depth, I think, is very dependent on how early they're willing to draft a corner this year. And it would be less about Witherspoon because, as Amy noted in the comments, no one's really complaining about Spoon. There might have been some like in the early portion of the year of last season, but yeah, Spoon he's been outstanding. But with Woolen, most of the time he's making good plays, and when he's not being targeted by default, I'm assuming he's done his job. It's just that when he has his negative plays, they really stand out, and that includes the penalties he commits. So, yeah, Woolen is going to be one to watch because I think there's going to be value for him in the free agent market. If he plays well, but like nothing outstanding that Seattle is going, we got to extend you. Let's open up the checkbook. He could fetch a pretty high comp pick, I believe. I mean, Shaq Griffin.
I think he would fetch a 3rd round comp pick, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of did this with Shaq Griffin fetched they fetched comp picks and then Seattle offset them with their free agent signings. But you get the idea. They were CFA eligible. So whether it was him or DJ Reed or Maxwell, like Seattle has had that history. So I don't think they are so tied to Woolen, especially with the new coaching staff around. He is a lock.
Yeah, that's why I put Riq down at like a 60 because I feel like it's he's either going to have an amazing year and buy in and everything, which I don't think is going to happen, but that's a potential. And they could extend him. Or it's what I think you guys are talking to, and I agree with. I think they're more likely to play out the whole year and see what happens if they can get him back at a deal that they like and he buys into the system and the culture. Great. If he doesn't, walk, and we'll take our 3rd round comp pick.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So let's move on to one of our other guys here that's out of this draft class, and that's Abe Lucas. So I put Abe down at 50%. Abe's whole extension is going to ride on if he can be healthy this year, I think. I think there's a chance that Seattle will draft a tackle potentially, maybe in late day 2, early day 3, like a Jack Nelson out of Wisconsin that could potentially come in and be an upgrade over a Mike Jarrell right now, and or Josh Jones even. And then essentially hope that Lucas can stay healthy. Again, if he is healthy, he could get like a Caleb McGarry kind of deal where it's 3 years, $34 million. But a lot of it could also be a shorter prove it type deal as well with Abe Lucas. And that's where I'm with Abe is it's all about his health. When he's there and he's healthy and he's good, he's a great tackle. We can't argue that. We have 2 great tackles when both of them are healthy and playing well. But we got to see if Abe can actually be healthy this year.
Yeah, and even 50-50 might be appropriate entirely because of his health. If he, with a healthy offseason, and so far it looks like he's having a healthy offseason, if he gets hurt again and it's serious and there's any inclination that what he's dealing with could just be a recurring thing with his knee, then there's almost no way you keep him. The whole idea of kicking Lucas to guard, and I said on the last show, like, please, let's stop this fantasy.
Yeah.
0 snaps at guard in college. I can't recall him being like a guard in high school or anything. And I don't think he's really like a prime guard candidate. So at tackle, he's been good. I mean, in the rookie season, we were debating whether or not Lucas was actually the better pick than Cross. And then Lucas missed so much time in 2023. The encouraging thing for me with Abe last year was that other than the 49ers game when he returned, he went 100% the rest of the season that he was healthy, because he didn't play the Rams game, but it wasn't a knee injury. It was like shoulder or some other thing that would have been like something he might have played through if there was something at stake in terms of playoff seeding. So yeah, I think that's if Lucas can stay healthy, Seattle will look at extending him. And it won't be a break the bank thing. Like, no, he's not Tristan Wirfs, so he's not going to reset the right tackle market. There is no body of work that he has that would justify him getting $28 million a year like Tristan Wirfs or Penei Sewell. So somewhere in the Spencer Brown range or even lower than that. I mean, Austin Jackson's on $12 million a year right now. I think that Lucas would just be in that fringe top 10 area of contracts. So I think that would be totally fine. And we haven't brought this up a whole lot, but like 2026 cap space, and everybody's going, oh man, look at all this cap space we got for 2026. Yeah, it's because they don't have a lot of players under contract for 2026. Everybody has a lot of cap space when nobody's under contract. So that cap space is going to be dwindled down pretty soon once they get going to extending these players. But usually the year one cap hits is not the strongest. Right. So I'm not worried about next year's cap hit. So yeah, I think that Abe is going to be, if healthy, I lean towards extension. Injured again, they probably walk. And I do think that they will look at drafting another tackle because, Jarrell, he had good moments last year, but he's still a very raw player. And he's not so indispensable that there shouldn't be some more competition there.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with both you guys, and he's not the same talent level, even close to Abe when healthy. So I think, yeah, I think it comes down to health. That's it. Like number one, if they see, wow, this guy, it's such a unknown, and like you said, he stayed healthy to end the season, and he's been healthy in the offseason. So all signs are pointing to positive, and but you got to play it out. We need a full season. And that to me is what it's going to come down to, because like you said, yeah, we were debating. We actually, I don't even know if it was a debate. People were just like, he's the best lineman on this team, but then riddled with injuries, right? That's the only thing. And it's finished. It sucks because you see the talent this dude's got. He's so talented. So hopefully it just continues to stay healthy, and he put away those rumors of the chronic injury that people were putting on him, and oh man, this guy might just have to retire. So let's hope for health, man, and then work out a deal with this guy if he stays healthy. But I could see them also drafting a guy too. But that's, yeah. So 50-50 is a good one.
All right, so our last guy out of this draft class that we're going to take a look at now is my guy that I've been banging the table for basically since he was drafted. And that's Coby Bryant, who's now made the official move to safety, which is where I thought he should have gone right away. But the thing I kind of looked at was, I think for Coby, you could use Julian Love's deal as kind of a rough kind of thing you could build off of and make it fit for you better, because he doesn't obviously have as many starts as Julian did when he got his deal. But you look at what Coby did when he came in and became a part of the defense as a full-time starter, taking over for Rayshawn Jenkins. He really solidified that back end with Julian Love. It allowed Jenkins to play in, I think, a better spot for him overall. But the guy always finds a way to make plays around the ball. He's a mid-tier safety, I would say, right now. And he has the ability to go up. And Mike McDonald loves him. He talks about him with such high praise. But the thing is going to be is, can he take what he did last year as a starter and bring it over into this year and have another full season? I think Coby Bryant is a candidate to be extended, and I put him here at 70%. If he has a season, like he did last year, I could see Seattle extending him late, like they used to do with like KJ Wright and stuff in December before the last couple of weeks of the regular season. They get an extension worked out so he doesn't hit the open market, because I think Coby, if he does have a good year, will have some sort of a market, in free agency in 2026.
Yeah, I'm a lot more torn on this than you would be, Bryce, because I think about the first couple of years. The first year, he was kind of amazing with his ability to force fumbles from that slot corner position. But outside of the forced fumbles, he wasn't actually good in terms of coverage. He was a good blitzer, that's for sure. And then his second year, I think he just kind of got lost in the rotation. He didn't play as much. And I don't remember, did he have like an injury issue?
Yeah, he got injured that year and he missed I think the first half of the season at least. And then he basically just never got put back in.
Yeah, it was a toe injury. So, yeah. But even though McDonald moved into safety, we have to acknowledge that the Pete's staff, so it was him and Clint Hurd, they were on the idea of moving him to safety in the second year. So that's kind of what started everything. And then even through the first half of 2024, Rayshawn was getting the bulk of the playing time, and Coby wasn't playing a whole lot. So he was like, the special teams guy. He could be that extra safety we needed for bigger packages. But after Rayshawn got hurt, Coby was really good. He tied for the team lead in interceptions, didn't he? He had 3 or 4. So he's got a nose for the ball after the first couple of years of not getting picked and having multiple overturned penalties. Coby balled out, man. I like Coby Bryant at safety, but just like with Riq, I think this is very dependent on what happens with the draft and how early they go at safety, because I'm not worried about Julian Love's job security. But if they take Nick Emenwari or Malachi Starks in the first round, that pretty much tells me that Coby is not likely to be re-signed. Or if they are, it's going to be like a pretty cheap deal. But yeah, Coby is your second best safety. Julian Love is your top guy. And I think that Schneider's learned his lesson as far as allocating so much money to the safety position. So yeah, I'm leaning toward him getting extended on a cheap, like 2 or 3 year deal where There might be some outs if he has any sort of regression, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure. In other words, I don't think it's highly likely that he gets re-signed or slash extended, but I think it's leaning towards like 55-45 in that general area. But yeah, McDonald raves about Coby, that's for sure. And I think that his coverage instincts have been really, really best served at safety, because I don't think he has the physical ability, especially with his speed, to hang with slot corners.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I was thinking the same thing about the draft. I think if they get a Malachi Starks or something like that, I think then they're sort of, not keen on the extension. But I like that 2-year with outs. But yeah, no, I'm in agreement. Like I love the kid. It's just the body of work is not like long. So, as far as just like, running over there and giving him the extension, it's we'll see what happens. But I got a question for both you guys. What do you think as far as who gets extended before the season? I know we sort of touched on it, but how many guys for sure do you think, or for sure, but you are pretty positive on that get these extensions before the season starts? Just really maybe 2 guys, or do you see?
I think the conversation's just around Mafe and Cross.
Mafe, that's about it. Yeah,
They're the only 2 I could see out of that group.
Yeah, and then Walker, Riq are played out guys.
Same with Coby at this point. You have to put another season together.
Yeah, and then Abe as well. Abe's the health. He's got to stay healthy. Abe for Abe, it's health, right? Ken,
Dave and availability.
Ken would be for me. Wow, man, health a bit, but also just production in this Kubiak system, right? I mean, if it's kind of the same as last year, I think it's see you later, right? I mean, that to me, and then Riq is just, again, bonehead stuff. Like, can we just buy in and be that guy that Mike wants to be? That's the big unknown for him. But yeah, what are your guys' overall thoughts here? We got one more guy here, or we
nope, that's it.
Okay.
That's
what are your guys' overall thoughts? I mean, that's kind of fall in line pretty much. Like with those guys, it's kind of like there's going to be some play it out and kind of see, and everyone's sort of got a different situation. You know what I mean? When you look across the board, Abe, it's automatically health, because we know the talent's there. The buy-in's there. It's just, can he be healthy? Riq, it's like, you got all the talent in the world, but where's your head at, right? So it's kind of unique. Like every guy sort of got a unique situation. Even Coby, it's like the body of work's so limited, right? Like if you saw a couple of years of that, it's like, yeah, let's extend this guy now. I mean, those are my thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it actually might be just Cross that we're looking at this offseason. And that it's possible that Mafe would be somebody we look at either late in the season or during the offseason, like a few days out from next year's free agency. And look, if John Schneider wants to prove that he's committed to continuity on this offensive line and fixing it, the easiest way to fix it is to extend the good players you have. Like, they didn't want to extend Damian Lewis. I'm fine. Okay, fine. I know there was debate about it. Like, do you want to pay Damian Lewis the contract that Carolina gave him? Well, in hindsight, absolutely. Because $13 million a year last year, compare that to the contract Will Freeze just got. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we're at with as far as keeping Damian Lewis. But with Charles Cross, yeah, you got to keep him so that you at least have something. You have a building block right there, and that you're not going, okay, we're focusing on the interior of the offensive line this year, but now we've got these 2 tackles who we don't want to extend or might not extend. So now we got to fix these 2 problems after trying to fix the interior. So you can't just, plug one hole and then another one, you create another one. So yeah, extend Cross, no ifs, ands, or buts as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So speaking to the continuity factor on the offensive line, Mookie, John Schneider made some comments today at the NFL owners meeting. So we'll touch on these kind of quickly. So, Brady Henderson did a good job, but basically John said they're not probably going to add anybody before the draft now. They're just in full draft mode. They're not adding anybody to this O-line. And he made another interesting comment about the center position. And they don't see this as a great center class, which tells me I think they're going to roll into camp potentially with Olu and Jalen Sundell, and maybe they'll add a veteran to that group to potentially, someone that they can bring in as a camp body that may push them. But, the comment that Schneider made with Sundell, he says he can play several different positions. The staff really likes him. He's smart, tough, and reliable. That stuck out to me, and it's going to be interesting, those two guys. That's going to be a pretty interesting battle at the center spot. So, but center is going to be hard to find an upgrade in this draft.
Yeah, and I'm more concerned about the guard position than the center because
agreed.
Look, the thing with center last year is that most of the problems regarding that position were just Connor Williams snapping the ball 50 feet over Gino's head. Like Oluwatimi was fine. I don't think he was a liability. I'm not saying he was great, but he certainly had some more positive reps than not, as far as I'm concerned. In other words, he wasn't like game damaging bad in the way that Williams was with his snaps. And in hindsight, like with as much shotgun as Ryan Grubb was going to run, they should have never signed Connor Williams in the first place because he's got a history of that in Miami.
Yep.
But at the guard spots, like Anthony Bradford, he's still here. I mean, he'll be here for his third season. And either the Seahawks view him as we're going to give you another shot at this, or there's going to be competition for him because he's just had too many ugly moments. And then left guard, you got no choice. I mean, you're replacing Tomlinson. So I think that his statements are, I won't say a vote of confidence, but a show of support for Christian Haynes, Satal Alamea, Oluwatimi, and Jalen Sundell. So those four. And of course, with Haynes, the fact that he couldn't get on the field much, I mean, that doesn't mean like, oh my God, we must have Christian Haynes in the starting lineup. I know Rob Staten brought that up the other day, but I don't want to give up on him just for that. I mean, another year, another new system to learn, but it's something he's more comfortable with. And that to me is the key compared to what he was doing with Scott Huff. So I'm not surprised that Schneider said, we're not going to bother adding any. Which veteran would you really add at this point? Like the moment that Tevin Jenkins signed, like that was the end of the story. So like Dalton Reisner would maybe be an option. I'm not going to talk about David Andrews because it's more likely it's just as possible he just retires. Like he has a serious health problem. So there are not a lot of notable people out there. Maybe Will Hernandez. And the guys who are available are either injury concerns or they're old or both.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not going to be upset if they don't sign at a veteran. I'm not pleased that they ended up just getting one backup caliber lineman in free agency, but it wasn't for lack of trying. They tried to get Will Fries or Will Fries. I think it's actually Fries, but I'd rather it be Fries because the Colts also had a dude named French on their lineup. So, the jokes write themselves.
Right? They do.
Yeah, they tried. They didn't get him, and it doesn't seem like they were ever in on the Dahlman sweepstakes. So
no,
it's draft and develop. And guess what? He's got no other choice, which means believing in the guys you have right now and believing in the new coaching staff you just hired. These are your guys now. And then believing in the picks that you will make. Now, what I also feel is that they're not going to draft 3 or 4 offensive linemen like people want them to.
Nope.
Yeah, they're going to go. I'd sooner believe that they're going to spend 2 premium picks, meaning 2 of their 5 picks, or maybe 2 of their 6 picks. So like first round through their 1 4th-round pick on offensive linemen, and that will be that.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much all they need in the draft. So, we've had commenters go, even in the chats or on field goals, go, yeah, those first 3 picks better be on offensive linemen. No, that's not how it works. And they're not going to be good right away. So,
and the thing is too, like for me with this whole discussion around the offensive line, we've done a bunch of mocks and played around with it. And I still am of the component that if there is a player on their board, whether it's a receiver, a edge or something like that, or a defensive player that can come in and make an immediate impact that grades higher than, what people assume they view as a need, they may take that player because this draft class has so much meat on the bone in those day 2 to round 4 kind of area to get interior offensive line play. Like if Gray Zabel's your highest ranked player and he's there at 18, okay, cool, take him and we'll go from there. But if he's not, and there's somebody else that's there and you can trade back and take a Tate Ratledge or one of these other guys in day 2, then do that. And it's, you're going to have to live with it. And the other thing that I don't think is out of the question, and John didn't really say it, but he kind of let it that way, is that there's cap casualties. There's guys that are going to get released off of rosters because they're going to draft people to come in. Seattle may make a trade at some point here once this dust settles after the draft for an offensive lineman potentially. Maybe it's a Wyatt Teller or a Benito or one of these guys in Cleveland that, they got to clear cap space for, and they bring in a younger competition. Maybe that's a guy that they go after, and that's another pathway to getting a upgrade on the offensive line. But this thing that the first 3 picks need to be O-line, and we need to go hard O-line, and we need to spend, that much capital, it's not a smart way to go about drafting it. Like, yes, I agree. The O-line needs to be addressed. It's been a problem, but it's also not going to be fixed by the snap of our fingers and adding a whole bunch of players to it and hoping it works.
Mm-hmm. And I think you meant Bitonio, because Benito is a pretty good player for Denver, but he plays linebacker.
Oh, sorry.
Bill Barnwell had this.
You can't get a name past you, Mookie. Like,
I know. I've tried numerous times.
So Bill Barnwell had this thing about hypothetical mock drafts, mock trades. Sorry, and his was for Seattle, trade 18 to the Browns for pick 33, pick 67, and Wyatt Teller. I don't think there's a chance in hell Seattle does that. I don't want to go out of the first round completely. Okay, you pick up you have 3 seconds and 3/3 to play with, but I don't see the point of that. And also, Teller's on an expiring deal. So that means draft going out of the first round entirely, and then presumably extending Teller, and he's on the other side at 30. I'm going to ignore the bit of the kiss and make up or with Uchenna Nwosu because of what happened in preseason. Like, I'm sure that could get worked out.
Yeah.
But like, as far as the thought process, I don't think that John is going to make that big a swing. I mean, the Gabe Jackson deal, they traded for him and extended him, but they gave up a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Right? Supposedly in his trade calculator, this is like 4th round value by trading out of the first and getting a 2nd and a 3rd, but I still wouldn't do it. There could be cap casualties. There could be guys that they think about trading for, but to me, Schneider's move is going to be, and maybe his job security is going to be based on the coaching staff and these draft picks. And if they develop, then that's good. And if they don't draft a guard in the first round, it's not the end of the world. You think about the highest paid dudes right now. Trey Smith is not a first round pick. Now, Quentin Nelson was, but Quentin Nelson's amazing. And there are not too many guards going that early in drafts anymore. What's his name? Aaron Banks, definitely not a first round pick. I think he might have been 2nd or 3rd. Damian Lewis, obviously not a first round pick. Will Freeze, not a first round pick. Those guys can be found like in day 2 and day 3. So your top guards are generally going to be in that range.
Yeah. What about the people that, the camp that says, look, if you look at top O lines, that they are generally, the earlier round guys, right? Like, and I think the frustration comes from just, I think the exaggeration of loading up, like we got to go first 4 picks or whatever. It's just the frustration that the fans have. And I understand it all. I mean, it's been year after year after year. And I think, and I get it, this particular year, I'm in agreement with the free agent market. Like, it wasn't very good. We had a wish list before, right? When we're talking wish list with Trey Smith and Dahlman, and, Trey Smith never even made it to free agency. And then Dahlman probably just had his sight set on Chicago. And then you're down to Fries. And, well, Minnesota's like, no, you don't have to do a physical and we'll give you 5 years. So that's I'm glad they didn't do that. But people sit back and because even with the DK Metcalf and Geno, we talked about thinking, hey, Schneider's going to address this even with these guys still here. And I think once they got traded, the fan base was just like, okay, well, now it's a given that he's going to throw money. I think even if there might be some people that look at the Fries thing and be like, who cares? Give them 6 years and no physical. I think that's the mindset of a lot of fans, because I think now people look at it like, okay, now everyone's just making excuses again for John Schneider. Maybe some of that is true, right? Because I think, like you said, it now you look at the draft, it's not these guys. It takes a while to develop in the NFL and the O-line. So now that people are like, well, there's the other excuse. Now you didn't pick O-line because of that. So I get the frustration, and I look at it. I sit back here and say, when is it going to get better? And I think the whole coaching thing, it's like it holds only so much water, because we've seen that before. We went down that road before, and you need the talent. I think when you look at it, like we had high hopes for Scott Huff to turn around this O-line, and obviously we know what happened. So I don't expect like coaching, and people have said it before. You got a bottom unit. How much can coaching fix this? So it's kind of that unknown. I think we want to stay positive with it, but to me, it's I was a little surprised that he didn't do anything. And I'm not saying that this particular year, it was tough, right? It was just there wasn't a lot of guys, but I don't know. We'll see. But I guess
also want to state it's Joel Bitonio. That's who I meant. That's the name I was looking for, Mookie.
Yes. Joel Bitonio, and he's like 34, 35. So
he's 34, 35. But like that's if you were to trade for someone that could be a cap cut or something that could come in and give you a little bit for a year, kind of like how we were looking at Zeitler. Mm-hmm. He's potentially a guy I could see, but that's the name I was thinking of.
Yeah. And they looked at Zeitler multiple times. They almost got him in 2021 during the Gabe Jackson trade year. So, yeah, there are a lot of Seahawks that John has almost signed over the years. And then there's the one that he actually signed and then cut. I'm talking about the great Jari Evans.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And I think, guys, we're going to get into a mock draft here in just a second. I'm just seeing if we could squeeze in
get some questions in here.
I was just gonna say let's get a Q&A going. Man, there's some what do we got here? Let's get a couple going. I know. Okay, let's go right here. I got one right here. Well, we'll start with this super chat from Dogzilla. JS kicker and tailback prospect Cam Garou. I don't know, guys. Thoughts?
I'm deferring to Mookie.
Is that Cam Garou? Is he like an Australian player, and that you meant to type in kangaroo?
I'm thinking maybe that's what he was thinking.
Dude, hey, maybe Dogs, if you can shed some light on this for us. So we'll come right back to you. Ryan Eddy tossing a couple bucks out there for us. Appreciate it, man. And also, Ryan, welcome, new member to the club. So welcome to the family. And let's see what else we got here. Here's one from earlier. Cross Mafe, Riq, and Walker extensions are no-brainers if the price is right, but depends on who's available on the market at the same time. Sun Ones, man, he's been in the chat. He's been on the pulse a lot, man. But we don't agree with all that, man. Right now, we kind of evaluate at the end. I think Cross is kind of that one guy that's a no-brainer, and the rest we'll see. But any updates on that? Kangaroo thing?
Yes, it is kangaroo. There you go, right there. Yes, kangaroo, perfect JS pick. Yeah, you're not wrong there, Dogzilla. Potentially.
Yeah, we're gonna have Kangaroo Jack. We're gonna draft Kangaroo Jack somewhere early.
Here's another one from Dogzilla. He goes, Mac and Kubiak say we're going to run the ball. Extend Walker. He's the best we have. I don't know
the best
yet.
We have is that a reason to sign a guy for an extension though, right?
Depends what they do in the draft and
exactly
running back, right? That'll be the big thing. And we got Sean in here, says hello 12s. Good to see you, Sean. We got else in here. Crazy Loner. Someone's gonna pay Riq if he has a good year. I'd take the comp pick over paying him.
I agree. If he has a good year, there'll be a market for him for sure. Like no question about it. And that's why the comp pick is pretty fair to me, man. Fifth round. What is he? Fifth round guy. You can get a third.
Yeah, get a third. You're increasing your value.
I just don't. You know how it is, right? Like we look at a guy like Spoon, and you just like his mentality. You know the kind of guy he is. Like that doesn't change year to year. You know what I mean? And so for us to be like, oh, you know what, Riq could just be this different guy. I think he is who he is, and I think he maybe could be. He can play in this league. There's no question. Yeah. But is there a team that's just better suited? I don't see. Like I said, I go back to. I don't see him like as that Mike McDonald type of guy, especially with some of the. I mean, man, you got to come back from that. When you get put in the doghouse and you're benched and whatever else is going behind the scenes, plus what we've seen. That's to me where I are coming out on Riq, because I was excited, man. After the rookie season, you're just like, dude, this what a steal, right? And he does have the physical tools, but at some point you got to put them all together and take that next step, right? So
agreed. And so Nathan Roberts here comes in. I think this is the first time I've seen Nathan in here. Maybe he's been in here before. What about moving up to number 4 for the two-way player? I'm assuming he's referring to Travis Hunter. That's a lot to get up there, especially with New England holding the 4th pick.
Yeah, you got to get up the farm.
I would put that percentage at 1%.
Yeah, maybe less.
Yeah, it's a non-zero number, but that number is probably just 1. I mean, I love Travis Hunter. I think he.
100%. I would too.
Baller. Yeah. Seattle wasn't quite lousy enough to be in the Travis Hunter sweepstakes. I mean, that's all the cornerback issue right there, because I think he's going to be a better corner than receiver.
Yeah.
But that's not happening.
All right, guys. So why do you say we jump into this mock here? Because we're going to try a new simulator that's out. So I'll put it up on the screen here, and we'll do a 7-round mock. All right. So the new simulator.
Okay, real quick, guys, don't break any screens if a receiver's taking it 18 or an edge is taking it 18, because like that Mookie, real quick, that's a possibility. We didn't even talk about that. Like, you could see a receiver drafted 18.
I think if Golden or Mbuka's there, it's going to be a real conversation in Seattle's war room.
For sure.
Yeah, because Kupp is not here for 5 years. I mean,
no.
It really is just JSN as your long-term answer receiver, and then everybody else is up in the air, including our beloved Jake Bobo. So, and I actually think he's at the end of his deal next season. So, yeah, that's it. It's JSN and then a bunch of question marks after 2025, because you don't know if Kupp is finished, and MVS is not going to be here longer than a year. I can guarantee you that.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I'm going to put this up in the thing quickly right now. Is Zach goes, if a receiver is taken at 18, it's only if Tet slips.
I mean, I like Tet for sure, but I don't think they take him to 18.
No, I think there's a higher chance they take Mbuka or Golden, because I think there's some more versatility in those in the skill sets than McMillan, and I love what he does, but
I get the Tet. I get the Tet thing too, though, because like, especially losing a DK Metcalf, and you look at a guy like Tet, you're like, oh man, another big receiver. Now he it seems like he wins those 50-50s a lot more, and he high points, but doesn't have the speed and all that kind of stuff. I know where the attraction comes in when you just moved on from a physical big receiver, and then you're like, oh man, we're gonna go just smaller guys, and I think too, like I think Mookie, like JSN's your 1, so you're essentially looking for that number 2 receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we also got to include tight end, and we'll get to it. But if it's a tight end who is a great pass catcher, that is your kind of your replacement for a pure wide receiver too. So if we're talking 18, I'm only talking about 2 tight ends, Loveland and Warren.
Yeah,
agreed. So the simulator we're going to use is the ESPN Analytics NFL Draft Simulator. I stumbled across it the other day here, and it's actually not a bad model. It's got some bugs, but you know what? So far, it's been better, I think, than PFF in the drafts I've done. So we're going to do a 7-round mock, and we're going to take the Seahawks here. So we'll load into the draft, and we'll see how this board falls. All right. So we'll start this draft off. So Cam Ward to the Titans, Abdul Carter. There we go. Well, it's kind of fallen very, very interesting. Okay, so off the board to begin with, Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, like that 1-2 is, I think, pretty much what we think it's going to be. There goes Travis Hunter. He's listed as a corner on here. He's off to the Giants. Michael Williams, I've noticed, has been rising on a lot of these. He's now going to the Patriots. Jalen Walker to the Jaguars. The Raiders take their QB of the future in Shedeur Sanders. Jets take Mason Graham. There goes McMillan to the Panthers. Shamar Stewart, Tyler Warren, who you just mentioned, Mookie is one of the few tight ends. Will Johnson goes to the 49ers. I would hate to see that personally.
Yeah.
But Will Campbell to the Cowboys. Ashton Genty to the Dolphins. Colts take Membu. Mike Green, Matthew Golden, and there's tight end number 2, Loveland. So the Yeah, I know you were hoping one pick before us, but honestly, Mookie, when I look at that first 17, that actually seems pretty realistic in a lot of ways, in a lot of the way the picks. I'd maybe say Genty goes to the Raiders, but I could also see them taking Shador too, potentially.
Miami taking Shador? Oh, sorry, the Raiders also taking Shador. Yeah, definitely. And I know Pete was waxing poetic about Geno, but it doesn't preclude them from taking a quarterback.
No.
I think that extension talk and the fact that it hasn't happened yet is a non-story until otherwise, because there was a deadline clearly to extend Geno while it was still a Seahawk. There's really no deadline for him to get an extension in Las Vegas. Like, he's got his roster bonus. So, like, I don't really care what happens there on that front. But, yeah, let's what we got on the big board, because this all shakes out pretty sensibly to me. Membu, the Membu dream is over for me.
Yeah.
I think he combined performance to his way out of the top 20 and into like top 15 and maybe.
Yeah, I agree. He's a little bit, he's still in that top area, but we'll see. So Barron's here, who I love as a corner. I really like Jihad Barron. There's Jihad Campbell. Calvin Banks is here. Nick Emenwari. If we go to the O-line side of things, so if we go look at center and guards, this is what I like, though, is they clump these guys together instead of having a center category and a guard and then tackle. So you got Gray Zabels listed as a guard, so Savanaya, Donovan Jackson, Tyler Booker's still there, so Tate Ratledge, Embo. There's a lot of guys that are still there. If we go to the tackle side of things, Calvin Banks, Josh Simmons. I think, let's look at the edge group here quickly. As a Rock, who's there, and he's an interesting prospect. I think he's got a lot of Seahawk characteristics to him, but I also like Aladagio down here that I think you can get later on in the drafts, and as well as Josiah Stewart out of Michigan. So what do you think here, Mookie? Do we stick and pick or do we trade down?
I think they're going to stick and pick.
Okay.
I think that they might go as a Raku from Boston College. It is not like an unbelievably awful thing if they take an edge early, somebody who can be a dominant edge rusher who can potentially threaten to be a 10-sack a season guy. Like Nwosu's got his injury history. We've already discussed Mafe and Hall. But to me, you can never have enough dudes who can go after the quarterback, whether on the interior or at the edges. So just loading up there is fine. But I like Egbuka a lot. I mean, the Ohio State receivers, kind of like Wisconsin offensive linemen, like how many Ohio State receivers who've been drafted high haven't panned out lately? Like, it might just be Paris Campbell. So over the last few years, it has been wide receiver U. Olave, JSN, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't amazing in his rookie year, but I think he'll get better.
Yeah.
There's so much talent there. I don't think Egbuka and JSN are like carbon copies of each other, and Egbuka is a damn good blocker.
Yes.
So, but I also like Jaden Higgins a lot. I just don't think, even though the big board's got him higher, I don't think Higgins is going to go in the first round.
No. Do we take Egbuka or Ozaraku? I haven't taken a receiver in a mock draft in the first round yet.
Yeah. I just don't think that they're going to take a receiver. I wouldn't mind taking a receiver. Like, if it was me running the Seahawks, one, I get fired in like 5 minutes. But two, I would probably take Egbuka. I mean, I wouldn't mind taking him at 18. I mean, look, the trenches are still important. We got 2 second-round picks, people. Like, they're going to be there. And part of Darnold's success is the fact that he got to throw to freaking Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson. So having stacked skill position talent to me is as important as having a really good offensive line. If you have a decent offensive line and great skill position players, you could go far as long as your quarterback doesn't ruin the entire offense. So I think I will just to stir shit up and see how the chat reacts. Let's see what happens when we take Emeka Egbuka.
Okay, we are taking Egbuka right here. All right. So we took him. We've got a receiver to run with JSN as this thing slowly does its. All right. So Tyler Booker went after Calvin Banks, Nick Emenwari, Josh Connolly, Malachi Starks. Azare Thomas went earlier than expected.
Dart to the Saints. I don't know. I could actually see that happening.
Gray Zabel to the Cowboys. There you go. Gray Zabel went to the Cowboys. Jonah Savanaya went to the Dolphins. Like, Josh Farmer, who in PFFs is like a 5th round grade. He's going here at pick 47, which I think is believable. Kenneth Grant lasted to basically the start of round 2. There's Campbell. Ezraku went to the Commanders. Jane Pierce went to the Ravens, where I think that's probably a good spot for him. Walter Nolan to the Lions. This board fell, Malachi Starks to Green Bay. Nick Memorial went to the Steelers. Like, that's not a bad way. So Jackson Dart to the Saints is interesting, round 2. All right. So now do we look at this offensive line group?
Donovan Jackson, I wouldn't hesitate.
I'm going to agree with you because he's sitting right there. So we're going to take Donovan Jackson, and then we're going to pick again here shortly. All right. Do we take a look at the edge and see what's there?
Yeah,
so I really like Aladagio out of UCLA. He played Mike linebacker and then moved to edge.
Yeah.
And he was a pretty good edge player the last couple of years. I really like him, or JT out of Ohio State, or Josiah Stewart. Even Braden Swinson as well as another guy I really like.
Yeah, how do you feel about Landon Jackson? Because you've been getting a lot of buzz from Combine onward, really.
I like Landon Jackson. The thing for me when I look at Landon Jackson, I think he's more of a 4-3 than he is a 3-4 player. And that's the one thing for me where I look at like an Aladagio or a JT or Swinson. I think they have the versatility to move up and down and all around in that defense, which Mike McDonald likes, where I think Landon Jackson doesn't necessarily have that versatility.
Okay, fair enough. So the only pause I have, and I know this sounds hypocritical, that Seattle will have taken an edge rusher in the second round in our hypothetical mock here. I guess all mocks are hypothetical, but
they are
three times over a 4-year span. Like that's quite a bit, in addition to trading a second for Leonard Williams. So that's kind of been the consistent spot for them. Yeah, Quincy Riley is somebody, if he's available in the third, I mean, he might be somebody that Seattle looks at. Coby Bryant later on in the draft, selfishly, so we can have 2 Kobe Bryants like attorneys at law.
Yeah. What about Trey Amos?
Yeah, he could be somebody that if Seattle looks at a corner early, I mean, thinking back to how we feel about Woolen's future, and also, Josh Jobe was on a really, really cheap contract. It's not like he's got that starting position locked, but the interior defensive line, Alfred Collins. I mean, you could have him with Byron Murphy. I feel like even though they kept Jaron Reed, I mean,
they're still looking to get younger at that position.
They'll get younger at that position. I mean, Big Cat's going to be on the other side. 30s, no sign of him slowing down. Ty Robinson is somebody I know Rob was high on.
Yeah.
But I think that they could look at Big Alfred Collins as like more interior. And he's also pretty damn good against the run from what I remember. So, like, I don't think they're going to re-sign Hankins, and they cut Robertson Harris. And I don't think Cam Young as a pure nose tackle. I don't think that thing is going to be. I don't think that's ever going to happen. So you got Tyler Shuck here.
Now I'm going to throw a name out here. Do you take Elijah Arroyo at tight end?
I think I would. I mean, Rob kind of sold me on it, but I like Miami's offense in general with him, Cam Ward, and Damian Martinez and Restrepo. So I look at Arroyo and see really just this distinct possibility that Noah Fant is still like a trade chip.
Yep, I agree with you.
So
let's take Arroyo then here, because I don't think we'll get it, because him and Taylor are going to go pretty quick, I think.
Yeah. So you end up with 2 skill position players, but Arroyo is also somebody who, I mean, he can run routes. He's got good hands,
and he can block well.
Yes. So you've got you have your blocking tight end in Saubert, and then you have maybe Fant gets moved on, maybe you cut him, maybe you trade him, and of course his trade value is not going to be great, but it's like no offense for a 7th round pick, or no offense and one of your picks for somebody else in the draft. It's all possible.
Okay, so after we took our guy there, Arroyo, Hampton went off the board to the Packers. Jaden Higgins went at pick 57 to the Panthers. Mason Taylor to the Texans. Trey Amos did go to the Chiefs. Jordan Birch went there to the Eagles. Alfred Collins lasted till the 3rd round and went to the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, again, now have another guy to go with Chris Jones. Tyler Shuck to the Browns. So we know in this sim, his career is now over before it even started.
That's going to take him another 20 years.
Yeah, there you go. Ty Robinson did get off the board in the 3rd round of the Jaguars. And Aladagio went to the Bears. Damn it. Jack Besh, there you go, to the 49ers. Jack Sawyer to the Patriots. Landon Jackson lasted 1 pick before us there. Mookie to the Bengals. So let's look here. We're pick 82 in the 3rd round. Cam Scatterbo still there, or Scatterbo. Terrence Ferguson. I like JT out of Ohio State.
Yeah, I like him too. I liked him like 2 years ago when people were talking about him as like a number 1 pick not number 1 pick in the draft, but like one of the top defensive players overall. So I also like the idea of Embo from Purdue. But
let's see if he's still there. So that's going to be our guard center. Marcus Embu, and Tate Ratledge is still sitting there. And Jackson Slater, who I like as well. There's a couple others in here. Clay Webb's another guy I like. I also like Luke Kandra and Connor Colby as well.
Yeah, so there's my inclination to go, 2 of your first 6 picks have got to be on the interior O-line. I would take Embo. I don't think he's going in the 3rd. So this is one where I think that the board is going to differ greatly from what will actually happen. But it's either him or Ratledge for me. So
Ryan, what do you think, Ratledge or Embo? I think Ratledge might be a better fit, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a tough. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it. Yeah, I like Tate. Let's go there.
Okay, so we'll take Tate Ratledge. Harold Fanning Jr. went to the Steelers.
Yeah.
All right, we're on the board again. Now we can take JT.
Yeah, I know there might be some going. Yeah, take Jalen Milroe. I don't think that Seattle's going to take Milroe. And
I don't know if quarterback's really as high on Seattle.
I think it's almost off the board now. It could. Mookie, were you surprised if they even take a quarterback now?
I think that they still might.
Maybe Quinn.
Yeah, they could take Ewers or take a flyer on Will Howard.
I think whoever they take is coming in to compete with Sam Howell, not Sam Darnold.
Yes, that is the clear hierarchy because Flynn got signed to that contract and T. Jack was still on the roster, but when Russ came in, I don't think there was ever any question that Flynn was going to be like the lead over Jackson. But when Russ just skyrocketed, like, okay, we can trade T. Jack. This dude is even better than Flynn. So whoever gets drafted at quarterback would have to be like on that same Russ trajectory to be a star. And that's not likely. So I think that getting JT would be a good addition. And you double up on Ohio State players.
They have, they've got a way of producing good players out of there. So let's take JT.
And I won't lie, I like Dylan Sampson among the running backs.
I agree with you on that one too. Yes.
They don't need to spend a day 1 or day 2 pick on running back. And if they do, I'm going to have to go to the dentist like immediately for all of the enamel that will have rotted due to me heavily grinding and clenching my teeth.
So Jalen Milroe goes to the Falcons. There you go. Dylan Gabriel off in round 4 to the Bengals.
To do what? Certainly can't be playing quarterback because
I don't think so.
That's not going to be a thing.
All right, so we're here now. So what we've done, let's just have a look here. We'll take a look at our team picks so far for us. So we've got Mbuka, Donovan Jackson, Arroyo, Tate Ratledge, JT. Let's look at corner and see if there's been a massive fall off here at corner. I think there has been, and that's the one thing. If you don't take a corner before pick 52, like Jalen Smith's the one that kind of stands out to me. Out of that corner group out of USC. Other than that, there's not much.
Yeah, this is not a great cornerback class. Like Will Johnson is obviously a stud for out of Michigan, but after that, it's like there are not too many. This is more of a draft class where we think there's some good safeties, more so than there are like future stars at quarterback.
Chase Lund's there, who Rob talked a lot about, and is an interesting potential prospect. Let's look at the guard center group. So Jackson Slater's there. Again, Clay Webb, Wyatt Millam's there. He's really low on ESPN's board. Wow. Luke Kandra, Connor Colby, guys we can come back to later. So in my opinion, it's linebacker. So Demetrius Knight, Danny Studsman's there. Samel Moden Jr., who I really like out of Georgia, Cody Lindenberg, Jack Kaiser. There's some linebackers here, but we're still in that 4th round. Do we look at adding another receiver?
No, I think that they'll go maybe they end up going with a cornerback. Well, actually, Kyle Williams is somebody that I really like.
That's who I was thinking of. He's actually, they'd got him rated kind of higher than most other ones.
Screw it. Add another receiver. Like after those top four, I mean, it's not like top four on the depth chart right now. It's not like everybody else is absolutely entitled to the roster spot. So let's give it a whirl there.
Okay, so we'll take Kyle Williams here. See how the rest of this board falls.
Yeah.
So far, I've been impressed with most of the rankings, but there's obviously still ones where you're kind of like, eh. All right. Kyle McCord off there at pick round 5 to the Bears. Oh, Jack Nelson. Damn you, Green Bay. Stay away from the Wisconsin players. So it's like a quarterback. So, wow. Riley Leonard's the only one there, and they don't even have a rank on him.
All right. This is one of those where the board didn't fall our way. We are not taking a quarterback.
Nope.
I mean, like if it's not Leonard, it is definitely not any of those dudes. So maybe inside linebacker, I think they could still improve.
Okay, so Danny Studsman's one I like. 4 guys right there that I like. All the top 4 guys.
Yeah, I like Kaiser. So, but also Lindenberg. So one of those two.
Let's go. I've taken Lindenberg a lot. Let's go with Kaiser here. We'll take Jack Kaiser.
Kaiser Permanente is going to be our 5th round pick, and then we got another 5th rounder, right? So.
Yeah, we're up again here. So let's take a look at D tackle because we really haven't addressed it. So there's Ty Hamilton.
Yeah.
Junior Tafanua, Howard Cross, Nazir Stackhouse is someone. Yaha Black's another guy out of Iowa that I really like.
Yeah.
So I think these guys are later on that we can get, so we can go to another position here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at running
back.
Jordan James, Woody Marks. Like, there's some good backs here. Quentin Jackson.
I like Rocket Sanders, and I like Jordan James as well. I don't think these dudes are going to be like the Virginia Tech guy, too. I don't think he's dropping in the 5th.
No.
But, I think that the speed element of Tootin would be somebody that
he's a little bit different in a wide zone scheme. He gives you a little bit something different than what we currently have.
Yeah. So screw it. Let's go for him. Might as well speed up this mock draft. And we only got like 1 pick left then, right? Or we got 2 7s.
Yep. We have basically now we're going to be sitting for a while.
Yep. We skip out the 6. We got 2 7s coming up. And that'll be it. It's kind of an offense leaning draft, but you know what? The offense cost Seattle a playoff spot last year. So I'd rather rebuild offense. I have the confidence McDonald can do damage
with what he's got on defense currently.
Yes. So I think I could go tackle, like a swing tackle in the 7th round.
There is nobody here worth touching, Mookie.
Jared Penny must be Trevor's brother. So maybe they end up just skipping out there.
Luke Kandra's interesting to me. So is Connor Colby.
Yeah, they could go. Maybe that would be like your center option.
Jeez. Connor Colby could be a center option.
Yeah. So let's go for an Iowa dude. I swear they don't draft a lot of Iowa players for whatever reason.
I know, but Iowa does produce good offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So our last pick here.
Literally.
Do we take Nazir Stackhouse?
Yeah, either Stackhouse or Simmons.
All right, let's go with Nazir Stackhouse. We'll get a D tackle. I just like the name. Stackhouse is a D tackle. That's just a great name.
Yeah, Nazir Stackhouse, Rick Shithouse, basically. Either way works. Jay Higgins way down at 244. That combine showing must have really tanked his stock.
All right, so our drafts here on the left side, we've got Mbuka, Donovan Jackson, Arroyo, Tate Ratledge, JT, Kyle Williams, Jack Kaiser, Tootin, Connor Colby, and Stackhouse. What I do like that they did on ESPN's here is they tell you the chance available at pick and chance available at next pick, percentage-wise, which is kind of a cool touch.
Yeah, I like it and I don't like it because there's too much draft intel that we're unaware of that
True.
And people's medicals or bad interviews or whatever. But this is all fun exercise. You can fire us from our GM roles or praise us, but like, hey, it's all in good fun and you get to learn about new players. So I mean, we're going to keep doing this up until draft night. And at that point, you don't have to think about mock drafts because I swear we're not doing a way too early 2026 mock draft for the next Pulse of the Hawks.
Yeah.
Not for
Hey, man.
where Seattle will be.
Well, the best part about doing the mocks too is that you're always going to get criticisms, right? So, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't win. Just like John Schneider. So, you can feel like John a little bit when you're doing these mocks. But yeah, real quick before we get out of here, I like this. Dart at 18. There you go, guys. So, you talk about some television screens getting broken. That could be it if you got Dart at 18. I wouldn't hate it, but it's not going to happen. That was one where I was like, yeah, let's do it before Sam came in here. So now I'm like, I don't even know. Whatever. Back burner for me as a quarterback. But yeah, guys, hey, this was fun stuff, man. We killed it. Just tons of info, tons of stuff we talked about too. And yeah, mock draft season. So guys, we appreciate everybody coming in with the comments, the super chats. We got a new member. So yeah. We're just keep rolling along here. We got stuff coming up all the way up to the draft. We're gonna have some cool guests coming up. And Mookie, real quick, anything going crazy over there at Field Goals?
Yeah, Alexandre Castro, our draft analyst down in Brazil, he's going to do a profile on Tyler Shuck. So if anybody's interested, that'll go up on Tuesday morning. I think it's done. So be on the lookout for that. And we'll have a lot of draft content basically over the next few weeks. And anybody who's done the Seahawks in 5 daily trivia game where you have to guess the Seahawks player in 5 clues or less, tomorrow is April 1st. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is sort of an April Fool's joke. But if you get this player correct, tip of the cap to you because I totally flipped the clue structure around. So have fun with that. And yeah, looking forward to the draft. Only a few weeks away.
Yeah, the anticipation's it's cool. So, and we're gonna have a draft party as well. So guys, make sure you go over to Field Goals and make sure you sub to our channel as well. And yeah, that's it for us tonight. Let's get out of here. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.